clear that the world we once knew will never be the same again. And for many, that understanding is too much to bear because they have not been mentally preparing themselves for this moment in time. One thing that I try to do is live in reality, not a false one that ignores all the potentially negative circumstances happening around us. In this deceptive world, we must walk and maneuver with spiritual eyes. We must keep our feet planted strongly in a foundation of truth and understanding. We must be vigilant and live through expectations that are based upon the world that is actually here, more than the world that we want to see. The truth is that we are right now being guided into a new world order. A total shift in how the world runs and operates. A total shift in our relationship with our government. A total shift in society completely. The world we knew is being transformed into something else. The thing is that it's easier to live in this type of changing world when we are mentally prepared for it. So what I want to do is provide perspective from my vantage point. Because the coronavirus is not your biggest risk. Now don't get me wrong, what's going on is still a risk, but it's not your biggest one. What should we be expecting in the near future? What does the future look like after the coronavirus is gone? Let's talk about it. Let's begin. So, it's very hard not to be focusing on the coronavirus. Everywhere you turn, someone is speaking about it. All around the world, our lives have been completely shut down because of it. It seems this whole world has been affected by it. Economies around the world are crashing, bringing the world to an inevitable worldwide economic depression. Citizens across the world are in fear. They don't know who or what to believe in. They're quarantining in their homes at government's orders. Police and military are in the streets enforcing these quarantines. Television news anchors are broadcasting from their homes. A majority of businesses have closed. Even churches have closed their doors. Savings accounts of 401ks are being depleted by the day. Wall Street profits are tumbling. Jobless claims are skyrocketing. Congress is passing stimulus bills that bails out business, passes out checks to individuals, and gives out a little more support to citizens who are finding themselves in sudden positions of unemployment. So, it's a given that you would want to focus on this virus, but you should not. Take the proper precautions for yourself and your family, and move your mind away from it because the virus is not your biggest risk. It's what comes after the virus that you should be aware of and prepared for. Now, there are many claims that it's not really about the virus and really about 5G. And to me, that honestly makes more sense than the nonsense we are hearing about this virus. A virus or 5G, it doesn't really matter in the long run. It's the agenda that matters. The coronavirus is an extremely powerful scapegoat that the powers that be, the 1% of the 1%, have decided to use for this world transition. And it's not the virus that I will be focusing on, but this transition. There's so many things changing, it's hard to know where to begin. First thing that should be understood is that we are entering in a post-American-led world. What does that mean exactly? For decades since World War II, the world has been following the lead of the United States. The United States was the leader of the world, and everyone looked to it for the answers. It was the model of how things should go. But those times are coming to an end. Now, this is not something solely on Donald Trump, but for time's sake, it's easiest to start with him. For the majority of his presidency, Donald Trump has been pushing other countries away from depending on the United States and having everyone pay its fair share. The United States no longer being policemen of the world.
The United States cannot continue to be the policeman of the world.
The world is no longer looking to the United States for leadership, though. Even Russian media is reporting that Putin offered Donald Trump help, and Donald Trump accepted, even going as far as showing that Russia just sent a plane full of supplies to the United States. In the past American-led world, America used to supply the help. In this post-American-led world, America is now receiving the help. Just the fact that this is being said shows the times that we are in regards to the respect of the United States leadership. America now has the most confirmed coronavirus cases in the world. Though the virus started in China, China is being praised on the way that it has dealt with it. The response in Europe and America has been slow and haphazard by comparison. China looks like the model country, as it was the first country to experience the epidemic and the first country to get out of it. The authoritarian model in Beijing now appears more viable than the Western democratic one. I'm just explaining what the narrative seems to be implying. For people who care more about freedom, privacy, and individual rights, this world after the coronavirus looks a lot more worrying. China was able to slow the spread of the virus because the rights of its citizens are more greatly suppressed compared to the United States. And because people are in fear, they are desiring this more than their own freedom and more rights. What we are witnessing is a narrative that will eventually blame Donald Trump for not declaring martial law sooner, and a world that will be demanding more power and control from its government, handing over its rights and freedom to the government for more protection and security. The world is asking for more control by its government so that problems like this can be handled more efficiently. When people are scared, they will give up their liberties for more security, and that has always been a roadmap of the New World Order.
Hydra created a world so chaotic that humanity is finally ready to sacrifice its freedom to gain its security. Once the purification process is complete, Hydra's New World Order will arise.
So, as we move forward, we should have an expectation of the world embracing more of a control structure that resembles China more than the United States. It's not China running the world or being the world power similar to how the United States was. That's not what the world will look like. But that the authoritarian style of government that people don't question their government. They know that they're under surveillance and lack privacy. They are a country that is tightly run, and based on the narrative that we are seeing, we should have an expectation of this to be spread around the world. This is a part of the New World Order.
If you're like, I'm not a good reader, listen, there's so many tools available to you right now to just saturate and soak in the Word of God. One of my favorites, I was so tempted to even put my phone in the pocket so I could let you listen to it, but I downloaded about 3 or 4 months ago an app called Dwell. And Dwell is a Bible app. It's really beautiful to look at. It's aesthetically pleasing, but it just reads the Bible. And I have Felix. There's 4 voices. I've got Felix. Felix is African, and so he's got this African dialect. And then you can choose what kind of music you want in the background or no music. So I don't know if you're picking that, but I'm emotive myself, and so I've got ambient music to an African reading the Psalms. And I'm ready to punch the devil in the face. I'm ready for whatever's coming.
So, what do I mean when I say that the coronavirus is not our biggest risk? For some people, they are just waiting in their homes for the virus to pass and waiting for life to get back to normal. This is a major reason why I recommend not following the news in regards to the virus. Why I recommend not focusing on it? It's because that's all they're giving you, a false hope. But here's what they're not telling you. There is an expectation that by June, the spreading of the virus should be over, and that the self-quarantining and stay-at-home orders will be lifted and normal life should resume. But what they are not saying is that shutting down the world economy for this long will have massive implications. Now, I have already made a video speaking about why the situation is all about the debt. If you have not watched that video, please make sure that you do, so you have a better understanding. But understand this from an economic point of view. Shutting down all economic activity in the month of March will bring negative growth for the first quarter. So that's the first quarter of 2020 with negative growth. Then, with the economy shut down in April and May into June, that's obviously another quarter of negative growth. A technical definition of a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. So no matter how you look at it, we will be in a recession by July. A depression is negative growth for 4 quarters or a year, which is highly likely as well. The point is that we are undoubtedly headed towards a global recession that will probably be labeled a depression. And this will lead to higher unemployment and massive business failures and bankruptcies that will undoubtedly pop the credit bubble. This could happen even sooner than July, but either way, there is no saving it. There is no going back to the way things were. And the Fed, who has been charged with propping up the economic system during the coronavirus, will not have enough ammunition to stop further problems. And if the government decides to do more stimulus and continue printing more money, for example, like how Trump is proposing a $2 trillion infrastructure bill, and Congress wants to provide more checks to citizens, if that continues, there will be a dumping of dollars. You see, you can't keep printing money out of nowhere and expect the world to still have a demand for them. The oil crisis by itself could spark a dumping of dollars, as this is the only reason why the dollar is the world reserve currency right now. People buy oil in dollars. They are required to. But right now, there is an oversupply of oil, which could change the whole oil market. You see, the biggest risk is not the coronavirus. The biggest risk is the economic problems that the coronavirus will be blamed for causing in the coming future. Earlier I said we are witnessing a post-American-led world. But that is not just in regards to leadership, but economically as well. The biggest risk is the collapse of the United States dollar, which is inevitably upon us. I have a video about this as well. Please watch it. This will be the major transition into the New World Order, and we are witnessing the narrative that is being played out right now. Right now, there are businesses that are closed down that may never open up again, or if they do, their longevity will be short. America is a consumer-driven economy. It survives when the consumer is financially strong and spending. They are predicting numbers like 30% unemployment. How can a country survive when 30% of the country is unemployed? They will not have money to buy items. And even if the threat of the virus is gone for a period of time, it still will not change the world's economic condition. Now, this explanation of the economic situation is very light in this video. If you do not agree or understand, watch my economic collapse videos and they will provide more background. And please understand, this is not just specific to the United States, but the whole world will experience this. The United States is just so important because it is the economy that keeps the world pumping. Massive unemployment and lack of income will come. In the end, people will be depending on the government to save them from this. No matter how you look at it, we are entering this new world order, and life as we know it is forever changed. If you have a mindset of things going back to the way they were before the virus, you are not mentally preparing yourself for what's coming. While living through this coronavirus lockdown, things right now still have been pretty peaceful, but there will be civil unrest soon. Prepare for it and stay inside when it occurs. There is also a very big chance for military conflict. You see, North Korea has shut down all negotiations with the United States and has been repeatedly firing missiles. The United States also started taking action against Venezuela, trying to transition a new government and force Maduro to step down. There was a report in the New York Times just last week about an escalation in Iraq with Iran. The article said the Pentagon has ordered military commanders to plan for an escalation of American combat in Iraq, issuing a directive last week to prepare a campaign to destroy an Iranian-backed militia group that has threatened more attacks against American troops. But the United States top commander in Iraq has warned that such a campaign could be bloody and counterproductive and risk war with Iran. And to top it off, U.S.-China relations are free-falling. We have Trump calling it the Chinese virus, and China saying that the U.S. military brought the virus to China. My point is that the unresolved conflicts of the past are still brewing all over the world. Let's not forget about the continuous earthquakes that are happening across the United States. They are getting bigger and more frequent. That is another quote-unquote natural occurrence that would trigger collapse. See, this is not meant to scare you, but to prepare you. It's really heartbreaking to watch so many live with this reality that they just have to wait things out and they will get their lives back. No, we are all being conditioned to accept this transition to this new world order. Listen, this coronavirus epidemic is a worldwide problem. It's a problem that points to the current deficit in world leadership today. There is currently no leadership in the world that people can depend on that is able to properly direct a crisis that affects the world like this. This post-American-led world does not make China the new leaders of the world. It's just that they are the new roadmap of society. This lack of leadership is a purposely engineered objective to drive us into accepting this new world order and what comes with it. We should expect the formation of a world government to come from this, but this will not occur until after the economic collapse and military conflicts. But even before all this happens, this coronavirus is already establishing the structures of this new world order. We will be moving towards a complete transition to a digital. Privacy is no longer our major concern. Instead of asking, is there a reason to do this online? We'll be asking, is there any good reason to do this in person? And people may need to be reminded and convinced that there actually is. Our online communication will be turned up to new degrees. A person's world will be one of apps, tablets, and self-service screens, where everything you need is delivered to you through technology. Your transportation, your food, whether it's groceries or actual prepared foods from the restaurants. People will be using more products like Facebook Portal and FaceTime than ever before. Companies, churches, individuals will be using products like Zoom to do group communication. This is one reason why they are predicting that we will be quarantined for so long. This is mass conditioning. Moving away from a private, personal world to one that is completely manifested online, where all our conversations and interactions are recorded. Virtual reality will soon become the majority's actual reality. Why leave your home if you can visit places virtually? Virtual reality allows us to have experiences we want, even if we have to be isolated, quarantined, or alone. They will probably market it to us as a way for us to adapt and stay safe in the next outbreak. When you look at the products and investments that major companies and organizations have been making over the past decade, you can see how they have been preparing for this. Long before the virus's arrival, social distancing was becoming a way of life. Around the world, people have been getting increasingly accustomed to same-day shipping, on-demand service apps like Uber and Instacart. There is more streamed entertainment than one could watch in a lifetime. Everybody's doing group chats and talking on social media more than in person. When we come out from the weeks or months of distancing from one another, will we actually crave human contact? Or will we realize how comfortable we can live without it? As long as they condition us to fear contact with humans, things will never be the same. Trump even said things like, shaking hands should never be done again. This is a fundamental change in society.
But no, we all have to get away from, getting away from shaking hands is a good thing. And possibly that's something that comes out of this. Maybe people shouldn't be shaking hands for the long term because it does transmit flu and other things.
As a result of COVID-19, the coronavirus, everyone in the world was greatly pressed and influenced to surrender basic civil liberties in return for security, which will change the social contract in this liberal world. By promising security, we will all be introduced to a world government that reduces personal contact in the public space and grabs more power to intervene into our private lives. Digital technology makes it possible to create subtle police states where state control is not as obvious as it could be, because it's not like you see people guarding and standing around listening to your conversations. It's very subtle. And through this, people will voluntarily offer private data and information and hope that the state can provide more security. This is what the New World Order will look like. Let's talk about the vaccine first. From the time they started informing us about this virus, they told us about the importance of making the vaccine. When Trump started talking of it, he spoke of how fast he wanted to have the vaccine ready. This vaccine looks like it will be the first part of the narrative for everyone's initiation into the New World Order. There was a statement that has been claimed to be made by a man named David Spangler in 1945. And whether or not he said the quote is irrelevant to me. It's what was said that's important, because I believe it is a great explanation into the acceptance of the New World Order and the mark of the beast. What is said was, no one will enter the New World Order unless he or she will make a pledge to worship Lucifer. No one will enter the New Age unless he will take a Luciferian initiation. And this is true. The coronavirus vaccine will be a big part of this narrative, because what they will do is tie humanity to this vaccine. You will not be able to be a part of society if you do not take this vaccine. The claim will be, how else will people know you are safe and not affected? And the sad part is that because people are so scared, they will rush to accept this vaccine. The movie Contagion, which is trending right now, provides a visual example of this. If you are vaccinated, this will allow you to receive employment, travel on airplanes, receive medical care, stuff like that. Basically, the requirement of the vaccine will tell people who's safe and who's not. You will see celebrities and influencers pushing the importance of getting this vaccine. But how will people know that you're vaccinated? People like Bill Gates are working right now to tie the proof of vaccination to an insertable RFID chip.
Yeah, our foundation works a lot on diagnostics and vaccines and understanding how to make new vaccines, make them in large quantity. That's what we're doing all the time.
This will be a means of verifying one is vaccinated and safe. By taking the vaccine, it allows you entrance into the new economy and monetary system that will come into place. This will be mandatory if you want to be a part of the system. And the sad part is if you're not vaccinated, don't depend on your family and friends to help you, because they will be scared of you. They will probably turn you in because to them, you're a danger to society. I don't know if the vaccine will have the chip in it, or if the chip is something you were able to receive because you're vaccinated. But either way, they are both coming. People are demanding it, actually. Now, let's talk about this world's economic system. Regardless of what happens with the stock market and economy, even if you believe the dollar and all other fiat currencies will be around forever, it's undeniable that the physical paper currency system is done. Everyone is extremely germ conscious right now. There will be reports, probably, if they aren't out now, that the virus is found on paper money. Or to prevent future spreads, we need to eliminate physical currency. Money will be digital. I mean, people may want to believe it's all coincidence, that this is the reason why cryptocurrencies were even created. That is just a coincidence why we saw the implementation of the chip card and the virtual cards through Apple Pay and Samsung Pay that allow contactless transactions. That is a coincidence that in the recent stimulus bill, Congress tried to introduce a digital dollar. Maybe you have heard that they tried to tie the stimulus money paid to individuals to a digital dollar. They nicely let us know it's out there, but then they don't speak about it again. But the digital dollar was not just some proposal. It is already here. On the Coinbase platform, which is a major source in the United States for buying and selling cryptocurrencies, you will see that there is the dollar coin. It's already here, people. This is not a conspiracy. People may want to call this all a coincidence and inconsequential, but it is not. We are moving to a digital currency where all monetary activity is tracked and logged. The blockchain technology, which creates a digital ledger for all transactions, is already established. We are there. This is not some far-off future. We are in the beginning stages of the transition. And like I just said in regards to the vaccine and RFID chip, you will not be able to have access to this new economy without taking the initiation and receiving the vaccine and microchip. All of this goes together. As to healthcare, we are looking to a digital revolution of our medical system. It's no wonder why there has been such a debate of socialistic healthcare in America. People around the world will use the coronavirus as a strong justification to demand universal healthcare worldwide. It will be argued that the ability to respond to a pandemic depends more on principled and transparent leadership, and there will be calls to elevate health security to the same priority level as other threats, such as nuclear disarmament and terrorism. The world will act together on this. All medical records will be electronic and online. Since Obama, we have already been transitioning to digital medical records, but the full migration has not fully happened yet. Digital technologies will become even more prominent, and we are likely to see a rise in the use of telemedicine as well as home testing. Out of necessity, remote office visits could skyrocket in popularity as traditional care settings are overwhelmed by the pandemic. There would also be a containment-related benefit to the shift. Staying home for a video call keeps you out of the transit system, out of the waiting room, and most importantly, away from patients